So hello and welcome back to this channel, and today is a video about how to build an emergency fund. So in my last video I did a video in terms of what I do on payday, and in that video I shared how I was building an emergency fund, and I'm continually building. I went to the 1k mark and I just continually want to build my emergency fund. So I thought to myself, I might as well share how to build an emergency fund, because the statistics in terms of saving in the UK is actually quite phenomenal. I remember some time I was actually looking at statistics, and only 1 in 3 people in the UK have at least £600 in their savings. And I remember when I first read it, I thought, wow, that is actually me as a person. But over time I saw that it was very important for me to basically be saving and to have control over my finances. So as I'm on this journey as well, I would love to share with you how to build an emergency fund, and we're going to go through 5 things that can help you today in building that emergency fund. So first thing first, it would be very useful for us to actually identify what an emergency fund is. So what is an emergency fund? So an emergency fund is money that you save and put aside for a financial shock. So this could be losing your job, this could be ill health, unexpected ill health, or this could be making a large unexpected expense. And it's so important to have an emergency fund, because when we go through these difficult situations, it can prevent us from needing to borrow money, or it can help us, to not make those difficult situations like getting a loan or going in more debts, by being able to turn to our emergency fund, being able to turn to our savings. So now that we have identified what an emergency fund is, let's now walk through these 5 steps of how you can build an emergency fund. So here goes. So the first step in building your emergency fund is deciding how much you need. So start by looking over your finances over the last 3 months and basically decide how much you need to be saving. Look at your budget, look at your monthly budget, and times this by 3. So I can give you an example. Imagine in terms of your rent and also your mortgage, everything total to £2,000. So your emergency fund for 3 months would be 2,000 times 3, which is 6,000, and that would be 3 months worth of your emergency fund. That money would cover you for 3 months if an emergency was to occur. But we also have to remember that the more we save, the better. So as we're going on this journey of building our emergency fund should always be topped up over time. So an example would be, once you've gone to 3 months, you now transfer to building an emergency fund for 6 months, and this could be you basically, again using the same example, your total cost is 2,000 a month, and then times that by 6, that would be 12,000. So you're continually building and growing, and it's very helpful to remember that this may take time but be easy, and hopefully as we share these steps, it will encourage you to build that emergency fund. But before I go to the next step, a thought came to mind that it's better to even have a little emergency, because having a little is basically better than having none. So now we're going to go into the second step in building that emergency fund, and the second step is start saving. So thinking about what we said, decide how much you want to save based on what you have chosen, whether you're going to go to save 3 months, whether you're going to save 6 months or a year. Decide how much you want to save, but now you have to start saving, and you have to decide, how long is it going to take me? I can give you an example. When I was basically starting from scratch, recently I just reached to the 1k mark in starting to build my emergency fund. I said to myself, to make this easy on myself, myself, let me look at my budget and let me see how much each month I can contribute to this emergency fund. So I said to myself, let me start by saving £200 a month, and that would give me basically 5 months to reach to 1,000. So that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And my budget was that in 5 months time I would be able to reach the goal of 1,000, and then from there I will start building to 3 and then to 6 months. So the 1,000 for me was just like an opening wedge to keep me motivated and to show me that it is possible to start, but we all have to start from somewhere. So in having this goal, in starting saving for your emergency fund, make sure we have a target in mind, make sure we have these milestones. So for me it was the 200 each month, and I could celebrate and say yes, in month 1 it was accomplished, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I got to my goal. So make sure you have these milestones so we can celebrate. And also a thought came to mind, if you feel that you may be struggling or tempted, what you could do as well is on your payday you can set up a standing order, and that would allow you on the day of payday, you know, probably even before you wake up, that money is taken away straight to your saving account so you can start building that emergency fund. So now we are going to go into the third part in building that emergency fund. So first step, decide how much you need. Second step, start saving. The third step is create a separate saving account for your emergency fund. And I believe that this one is very important, because when the money is just all there, we may just think, okay, I see this money and it's mine. But it's so important to have a separate account for this emergency fund, so you're not dipping in and you're not dipping out. But also to remember that even though you're making a separate account for the emergency fund, because the emergency fund is not an investment, but it's literally to cover you within a financial shock, this savings account must be accessible. You must be able to reach this savings account as well, because if you can't during this emergency, it will be very out of reach. It'll be very hard to get to that money. So even though you want it in a separate account, you must be able to have access to this savings account, so in case of an emergency you can access it quickly and to your needs. And also as well, the reason why I would say having it in a separate account, imagine if you didn't have an emergency for, let's just say, 2 to 3 years. By you having it in a separate account, interest on that account is adding up. So your emergency fund could actually increase in value just by leaving it. But I realized that when you dip into in and out on accounts quite regularly, the interest sometimes fluctuates. So leave it in that account and only touch it in case of emergency. So step number 3, we said create a separate account for your emergency fund. And the fourth one is now make a clear plan. And I think this one is very important as well, because sometimes when we have an emergency, we probably don't know what it is. Some of us may say an emergency is that I have a craving for pizza, so let me go into that account. So we need to make a clear plan. We should ask ourselves, what is an emergency? You know, is the emergency for me or is the emergency for someone else? Let us make a clear plan. And we should ask ourselves, you know, when this certain thing happens, would it be okay for me to use this money? And think to yourself, what type of emergencies would I touch this money? Is it because of a job loss that you'll be able to touch this emergency fund? Is it because you need help in terms of medical bills and an illness comes? Or is it because of care for homes or care for a car breakdown? Write down and think to yourself, you know, what type of emergency will allow me to basically touch this money? Have those clear guidelines so that you're staying strong and not dipping into this emergency fund. We all know that, you know, without a clear direction, and also there's this saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So make sure you're keeping this clear plan. And the last one I would say is keep this emergency topped up, you know, as your expenses can change anytime. For example, you know, houses can increase, the prices of things can increase, inflation. So make sure your emergency fund is topped up, because imagine, let's just say, usually on a normal week or normal month, you know, 2K is enough for you, but because of this world and things happen, it could be that it increased to 3,000. So make sure that your emergency fund is continually topped up. So dear friends, this was my 5 tips of how to build an emergency fund. Do you have any other tips? Leave a comment below, and also share with me, you know, where are you in terms of an emergency fund? Is this the first time you're hearing about it? Are you trying to build your emergency fund? What are some things you're doing to help you save that cash? So see you in the next video. My name is Ruth, and thank you for staying tuned. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and if you've made it this far, make sure you comment below and show us some love. See you later.